Hey, this is Grim Reaper with another postscriptum video. I didn't get the recordings that I wanted on Saturday, so I didn't post on Saturday, and I'm working on getting more video recorded. But so in the meantime, I decided that this Sunday I should make a tutorial video for those who think that they can make themselves better tankers or new tankers who are coming into the game of postscriptum. I think postscriptum is a fantastic game, honestly. Their ballistics, their coding, everything. It's great, honestly, and it's most realistic tank warfare I have ever seen out of any game besides probably War Thunder, except for the fact that War Thunder is third person, blah yada yada. This one actually has a tank crew, and that's the talking points in this tutorial. This tutorial will have 4 bulletins. Number 1 starting with the tank crew and the golden rule, which is what I will go over, and then going down to the parts of the tank crew, the gunner, the driver, the gunner, and the commander slash periscope man. You guys enjoy.
Hey ho!
So to start this off, we're going to start with the tank crew and the golden rule. The golden rule is communication, talking with your tank crew, talking with section leaders, tank crew members talking to each other, talking to soldiers around the battlefield in general, talking. Communication is key. You want to know where other people are. You want to understand where everyone is at and what everyone in your tank crew is doing. You want to understand what the other section leaders are doing and how they need your support. And all in all, communication and intelligence of where the enemy is at, what is happening, so on and so forth, is of utmost importance. If you don't know anything, you can't act on anything. It's heavily aggravating when you have people in your crew can't speak your same language, or can't even don't even have a mic because they can't reciprocate and they can't confirm with you. They can't talk with you. Either you were gunner, driver, or the leader. They just like put in dots on the map and whatnot. And the map is part of the communication, but definitely verbal communication is key with the tanks. You should also work as a tank crew to realize your strengths and weaknesses so you can put people in their proper positions on the tank, such as strategy makers, such as gunners, such as drivers. Make sure that they're going in the right places so that your tank crew is working at max efficiency. I recommend playing with friends because it's easier to criticize each other and work with each other, but you should also be open to criticism. If people are telling you, hey, you're not gunning very well, maybe you need more practice with the gun. As a tank crew as a whole, don't be stingy with the tanks. If your tank crew is not effectively killing other tanks or infantry, and is not effectively doing his job, five deaths, 0 kills on the gunner, let the other tank crew take over. Support him, use support vehicles, find out and watch what they're doing. If they're being worse players than you, then you can learn from them what you shouldn't do. If they're being better players than you, learn from them what you should do then. Our second talking point is the most important part of the tank. That's the driver. The driver controls positioning. The driver controls elevation of the tank. The driver controls the deflection angle of the armor of the tank to other tanks. The driver controls a whole heck of a lot. If you're new or thinking you need to get better with the driver, rule number 1 is go practice. Find an empty server, get in a tank, and just drive around. You get stuck in ditches, you'll get into rivers stuff, you'll get across bridges and get stuck on the bridges. Learn how to get out of those without your tank crew having to get out and reset the vehicle, because every time your tank crew gets out of the vehicle, they're vulnerable. Rule number 2 is communicate with your tank commander. If you don't know exactly where you're going, use whatever you can to ask him where you're going, and even ask him to set a map marker. That's like the most important thing you can do, is knowing exactly where you're going and making sure that you're pointing the right direction. Communicate with your tank commander and tell him where you think you should go. Rule number 3 is that your tank commander's words are final. Like, don't be the driver who ignores your tank commander and then drives willy-nilly wherever the heck you want and then gets your team killed, because then you're to blame for it. If you do everything the commander says and you are constantly getting killed, first of all, you can leave the tank crew, join another tank crew, or make your own. Or you can blame the tank commander because you're following everything he's saying and telling you to do, and you're dying still yet. Rule number 4 is to know your vehicle. Understand what terrain your vehicle can go up and down, understand what terrain is passable with your vehicle, understand how fast your vehicle is, and even the silhouette of your vehicle is really important, like where the visor is compared to the ground, so you know when you're hidden or not. Because sometimes the tank commander can't tell you're hidden and you're not hidden at all because you have a really high silhouette, but as a driver, you have a really low silhouette and you think you're hidden. And our last rule, rule number 5, when there is infantry around you, the hull gunner is your best friend if you have a hull gunner. Because usually the turret can't get down close enough to shoot at infantry, and they don't know that the infantry is there, and the turrets on the bigger tanks are usually too slow to even get around an infantry unit that's running around the tank. So, you want to turn yourself towards the infantry unit so your hull gunner is at eye level with them and blast them off the face of the planet. So your second most important position is the gunner. You might be like, hey, what about, like, don't I need a gun to kill stuff? And like, yes, you do. But a gunner cannot help you run away, and it cannot help you exfil a location when you're weak. Most of the times it will take multiple shots to kill a tank. The driver is most crucial to positioning and moving out. The gunner just needs to point and click. He needs to know where to point and click though, and that is the important part of being a gunner. So, rule number 1 with gunner, again, practice. Find the tanks you like. Use their guns. Use them over and over again. Go to free 0-player servers that are armored and bring a friend with you to drive around in fast small tanks so you can take shots at them. And try out the fast small tank guns too because they will be necessary to be supporting your teammate. 2 is knowledge, knowing where to shoot the enemy tanks. You don't want to be shooting in the Tiger in the 4 turret mantlet. You want to be aiming for his visor or his lower glacis. You don't want to be shooting the Panther in the turret mantlet. You don't want to be shooting the Stackhound in the body. Actually, interestingly enough, the ammo rack is in the back of the Stackhound's turret. Along with this, you want to understand your shell types and what they do. APC, armor piercing composite. APC BC, armor piercing composite ballistic cap. These things are very important. An armor piercing composite ballistic cap will do much more damage than an APC, but an APC has much more penetration value. Another thing to know is your readouts, such as your clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, etc. And the difference between high or far or low and close. Third rule is, unless otherwise specified, or unless you have a fast turret, keep your turret at 12 o'clock. The driver will usually turn towards the enemy, and the commander will also usually command you to keep your gun at 12 o'clock. Your turret speed is usually pretty dang abysmal. Also, as a side note, the commander will probably ask you to move it side to side upon the commander asking you should do.
Excuse me?
Rule number 4 is listen to your commander and communicate when you can't see the vehicle. Your commander sits higher than you, probably can see a lot more than you can, especially if you got a bush in your face or a berm in your face. Ask for a little move out, ask for a little help in seeing where he is, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, etc. Also, your commander will probably know where tanks are most of the time before you do, so listen to your commander, and also try to evaluate where you really need to shoot using the commanders, and look for little things. Tracks, barrels, little inconsistencies, things that might look like a little crate might actually be the front end of a Stug. Number 5 is when shooting at infantry, exercise extreme vehemence. You've got a lot of bullets. You got a lot of energy. Use it. Even if you're not hitting anything, you're keeping the infantry to the ground, which is giving your infantry more time, and it's also showing the infantry where the enemy infantry is. Also, use a hell of a lot of your HE. Your HE is meant to kill infantry and will be useless against armor. The things that you should definitely be careful of is how much AP you're using. The most important for Gunner right now is don't token smoke. You ain't smoking him if you're token him. I don't want to set the wrong precedents. My name is Grim Reaper, and it's Grim Reaper for a reason. I have nothing against the wacky tobacco, and I am all for it. But if you're smoking, do not get in the gunner's seat. Get in the driver's seat or the whole gunner, and for God's sakes, do not get in commander. Like, I mean, I had way too many instances where we just had guys blazing it and they could not hit their target for worth anything or see anything for that matter. Our final position is the most essential position, for it is the brains of the mission. It is the strategy. Your job is to outsmart, outwork, outmaneuver enemy squadrons, enemy tanks, enemy commanders. It is the crew chief. The crew chief can be anyone in the tank. The crew chief can be the driver, the gunner, anyone, but the crew chief usually has control of the tank. It's telling the tank where to go and what the tank is doing. Crew chief can be multiple people, and it can also be one person. The idea that a crew chief is multiple people is the idea that everyone is acting independently in the tank. Usually it's when it's just two people, gunner and driver, and they're jumping around and they're trying to help each other as much as possible. Driver's driving around and the gunner is looking around. Usually this is not the most effective tank crew, but some people make it work. The crew leader should also be the section leader, so we can talk with other sections and be able to hear what is going on in the game and also mark spots on the map. I was struggling with the first rule. Should it be communication, or should it be to not solo tank? And I think the first rule should be no solo tanking. Solo tanking takes away from other crews that might be in the game, especially if you take a bigger tank that is more useful when utilized by a larger crew. Solo crewing is also clunky and hard to do, and usually people get the drop on you, and it's really easy to get the drop on someone, one person who's in the tank, and it can become completely annoying and end up in a way that the armored game is being lost because there's one person in one tank and he won't relinquish the fact that he's the one person in one tank, runs away from other crew members and whatnot and such. AKA, if you're a solo tanker, you're a dick, especially if you're not good at it. The crew chief's position is where communication is most important. It must be effective, and it must be efficient. Crew chief must be able to see everything that's going on and also be able to tell everyone what's going on through maps and through his voice. He should be able to be listening to the section leaders and to be taking down information while he's going. The crew chief is the only one who can look all 360. He's the only one who can see behind the tank and notify anything going awry behind them. It's also be important that the crew chief keeps eyes up, head down, and ears on at all times. If the crew chief isn't listening, isn't paying attention, then it is very easy to sneak up on your tank. Some do's and don'ts with the crew chief. Do flank. Do get information from section leaders. Do frequently check your map. Do use your periscope. Even though it has a small little tiny pinpoint view, it will help you see things that are out of the ordinary. Get comms from your section leaders that are telling you where the infantry are, and then set up in a position where you can see the infantry from a standoff and fire at them with your MG and your HE if they come around you, because they most likely will come and try to find you. The best thing to do is actually try to run. Once they are under your tank, there's barely any way to get them back out, because they can run around your tank and keep away from the turret and the gun. Try to order your whole gunner, maybe if you think you can get out of it, your driver, to turn your whole gunner around and try to shoot at them. Also, keep ears up. What might sound like normal wind rustling in the game is actually an infantry unit running up from behind or coming in through the bushes after you. What'll help you do this is turning off the tank engine, remaining stationary, keeping the turret stationary, just listening for a while. Closing the hatch will definitely help save you from being shot out as well. Try to stay away from roads and bridges, honestly. Try to keep outside and moving around the outskirts. Lodgies really like to get in the background and put mines on the road. Sometimes they are very difficult to see. Use foliage, use trees, use overbrush to your advantage. Shadows can actually make you almost virtually invisible because there's no light bouncing off of you. Make sure that the berm is low so that only your turret is sticking out, and then someone from a mile away spotting you just sitting there like a duck isn't shooting you. Things you shouldn't do is go in with the infantry. Stand off with your tank. The most dangerous thing to the tank is not other tanks, I swear to you. The most dangerous thing to tanks is infantry and AT. AT will slam you faster than you can say, oh shit, oh my god, we're dying. Do use building as cover and don't, I repeat, do not sit out in the middle of open fields. Other pointers are to always listen to your crew. Your crew is usually most likely smarter than you, and also has probably been playing the game longer than you. Unless you've been playing the game for a while, then you shouldn't be watching this video. And also, your crew usually has pretty good advice, and they have a lot to tell you. And the final, most important thing to keep in mind is patience. Patience is a virtue. Too many times, people run in headstrong, not knowing what they're doing, and they get shot in the rear, or they get shot in the sides, or infantry come up on them. Be patient. With a perfect balance of communication, patience, and strategy, you might end up in a situation like this.
An idea what that is? I think trying to destroy the fruit tank. What are you doing? There's an enemy.
That's an enemy? That's a panther?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's a panther.
Yeah, kill it, kill it, kill it.
Button it up! Button it up!
Nice!
Nice!
Seems like I'm completely blind.
Yeah, I saw him, but I didn't think
I think it was a Panzer 3. Yeah, it was a Panzer 3.
Nice, good job.
That's a friendly there.
Knock knock. Post coming. It's a fucking big ass bag of freedom. I'm no longer the sword, I am now the shield.
Alright, we got central. Yeah, we got it.
Forward, forward, Panzer! Coming around the left side of that building.
What?
Right there, there's Panzer right there.
Just stay here, just stay here, just stay here. Go for it. Yeah, I think his engine is down. No, it's not. Nice. Where the fuck did he come from? He came from the right.
Here comes another one! It's a shoot! Get him, boy!
Where are they coming from?
Free freedom! Come get your free freedom! If you like that video, hit that big fat like button. Please comment and give me any feedback below. Also, I would really enjoy if you guys had any other tips and tricks. I mean, that would be cool for people reading in the comment sections. And also give me feedback if you think I might be wrong at some points or if I could fix some points. I do have a Discord, which will be in the description below, so will the Patreon, which I only have my third video out so far, so I'm not expecting anyone to come to it quite yet. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed watching this video.